Hi-ho, true believers! Today we are talking about the upcoming animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, directed by Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman. Featuring the voices of Haley Steinfeld, Jake Johnson, Shamlik Moore, oh man, I'm terrible with names, Liv Schreiber, and Nicolas Cage. So, Spider-Man crosses parallel dimensions and teams up with Spider-Man of those dimensions to stop a threat to all reality.
So Nick, I got a question for you. So this movie, what is the Spider-Verse?
Okay, so to explain this without having to spend 2 hours to do this,
I'm
going to give you a basic concept. So in the Marvel universe, as well as a lot of science fiction and other comic book universes, there is this idea of parallel universes, like universes where certain decisions were made and there's a difference. So the Spider-Verse, or the concept of the Spider-Verse, has this idea that each reality has this thing called the Spider Totem. And the Spider Totem is basically the defender of that reality. And so across all sorts of dimensions, there are different versions of Spider-Man. So the Spider-Verse takes place with the idea that there was this. So with the multiple dimensions idea, there was this cult that knew about the multiple dimensions and knew about the spider totems, and they wanted to take control of the alternate realities. So they decided the best way to do that would be to kill the spider totems, all the Spider-Men that are in these different versions of reality. So they go out and they try to do this, and then other characters try to stop them. It's pretty.
Is that how they sort of become self-aware that there's other
So,
dimensions? I guess.
I mean, so the first appearance of this other dimension really kind of happened in the 1970s. There was this character called Madam Web that was actually heavily featured on the animated Spider-Man 1990s animated Spider-Man show. There was Madam Web, and basically she was this oracle that could tell Spider-Man what he should or shouldn't do, all the different branches of fate that Spider-Man could take, but also made Spider-Man aware of other realities, including the reality that featured Stan Lee as a creator.
Okay.
Now, are there other superheroes in these Spider-Verses, or is it just
some?
Spider-Man?
And there are some Spider-Verses where Spider-Man doesn't necessarily have spider powers. Like there's Spider-Man Noir, who is this black-suited kind of a...
He kind of looks like Rorschach.
He kind of does a little bit. And he actually acts a little bit like Rorschach.
He?
He's very extreme. He can crawl like up walls and stuff, but he does it with hooks and all sorts of stuff like that. He's more of like a Batman
Yeah, I was going to say.
version,
Sounds more like
but he's still very dark and brooding and stuff. And there's also other dimensions that instead of human beings, animals became the sentient creatures. And so
I was excited to see that because I had one of those Spider Pig comics.
Oh, yeah.
You did.
Spider-Ham.
Yeah,
Spider-Ham.
Yep, Peter Porker.
And I forgot it even existed. I got it when I was a kid. And my parents were like, "Nah, there's a talking pig. You like Porky Pig?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And then when I saw the commercial, like, it just sparked that memory.
You were like,
of
childhood.
I was like, holy crap, I forgot that even existed.
Yeah.
So I got
And
excited.
you know what I'm excited about? And so I have a confession. Guys, if you hadn't realized this by now, I really love Spider-Man. Spider-Man is my
These are all your
favorite
toys.
superhero.
These are all your toys.
Well,
I'm just
some
saying.
are Craig's, because Craig has great toys.
He's lying.
He plays with it.
So
They're all his. He
I
has kids and they're not even his.
I love this.
And they're not even theirs.
I love this upcoming film. I'm so excited about it because it's so nerdy. It's so dorky. There's this. So one of the most tragic events in Spider-Man's life was the loss of his girlfriend Gwen Stacy. She dies because she has to choose. He has to choose basically between saving her and saving like a bridge full of people, and he chooses to save more people, and he just ends up not saving Gwen Stacy. But there's another reality where Gwen Stacy, she got the spider powers. So, like there's, and she's featured in this film. I'm really excited about this.
Cool.
That's
Sounds
cool.
awesome. I'm excited.
Sweet.
But before we get any farther there,
Yeah.
I would just we have to kind of observe a major thing that happened just the other day, the passing of Stan Lee.
Yep.
It is sad to see that he has passed, 95 years old. However, if you take a second just to celebrate how amazing this person was and how what he has done that has affected our daily lives, you can be not even into comic books, but you still know who Stan Lee is.
Absolutely.
And it's just the stuff that he did was very amazing. He was also really brilliant. Like when he was editor-in-chief of Marvel and for a while, and he's always been a representative of Marvel after that. But he decided he didn't want to live in New York City anymore. And so what he did is he created an animation studio out in California and said, hey, I'll oversee it. And then he went and moved there. I mean, how many people can shape their own reality like Stan Lee does and also create so many realities that are so important to all of us, including
Incredible.
the brilliant mind behind Spider-Man. And why Spider-Man is my favorite superhero is because Superman, Invincible, there's a lot of other superheroes that are out there that are just larger than life. But Spider-Man was a young man who had real problems, and the villains and the superpower stuff, that wasn't the big problem for him. The Stan Lee stories that he wrote would be like Peter Parker was going to the pharmacy to get his elderly Aunt May, medication, and then he would get stopped by the Green Goblin for some reason. And there was this
lunch money.
But it was livable, and plus Spider-Man had to deal with problems of having to figure out how to pay rent, or
Right.
like he was very relatable and also felt like an outcast, very intelligent, and Stan Lee put his stamp on all of these characters. And even though Stan Lee did not create superheroes, he made superheroes relatable. Yeah. And I think that is super important for us to observe. So I say, to the life of Stan Lee, Excelsior, enough said.
Awesome.
Number 12, Hackett. So the first the public knew about the film came from the 2014 Sony hack that leaked multiple private emails about projects and people. And Sony Entertainment chairman Amy Pascal and president Doug Belgrad had emailed that Sony wanted to rejuvenate the Spider-Man franchise by developing an animated comedy based on the character.
So cool.
So that was the first time
that we ever knew anything about that.
Right.
And that was a crazy, when that whole hack happened, so much information got spilled about so many people, and this movie came about just because they were two people were just talking about, yeah, we should show them to Spider-Man.
Well, it was on the list of potential projects.
Yeah.
And it made me nervous because I was like, oh no, they're not gonna make it now. But they did, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Just took a few years, and we'll find out why. It took a few years
So thank you, hackers.
for making this project happen, right?
Perfect.
All right, number 11, Steve Ditko, R.I.P. So the film will be dedicated to the memory of Spider-Man co-creator Steve Ditko, who died on July 6th, 2018, while this movie was finishing production. And, Steve had, just as much to do with Spider-Man as Stan Lee, I think, for sure. They really came together on this character.
Yeah. I mean, so Spider-Man was a last-ditch effort. So Stan Lee was writing on a comic series that was a it was a anthology one where each comic featured 2 or 3 different stories in them, and they weren't connected in any sort of way. And the comic was going to be canceled. And so he and Steve Ditko, he came up with this idea that Stan Lee loved the idea. There was another superhero or hero golden age called the Spider, who was a spy character, and he always liked that name. And he always thought, like, well, wouldn't it be really neat if some teenager had spider-like powers? And he just threw a story together, and it's a somewhat forgettable story, but it became iconic. And that cover that Steve Ditko did of Spider-Man swinging, holding a crook, and just it just became the symbol of Marvel Comics for a very long time. And Steve Ditko and Stan Lee were given the permission to not only do some versions of Fantastic Four, but also to continue with the Spider-Man idea, which is just
That's awesome.
crazy to think about because it was a throwaway idea. It was just one little thing. So it's very neat. And when Steve Ditko left the project, they replaced him with artists who could draw like Steve Ditko.
So it always felt like him.
Yeah, for a very long time, and then of course it changed over time. But John Romita, John Romita was hailed as being able to draw like other people, so he drew Spider-Man for a long time too. So which is pretty cool. Yeah,
Awesome.
So number 10, Adapt. This is the second adaptation of the Spider-Verse comic. It was previously adapted in the third and fourth seasons of The Ultimate Spider-Man in 2012, which I liked that. That cartoon.
It was a good cartoon.
It doesn't hold the same nostalgia feeling that I had with the 90s cartoon, because that was ahead of its time. But when they did the Spider-Verse story, that was really cool because you got to see Miles Morales. And that was really awesome. So Miles Morales, if you didn't know, is a very controversial figure.
Definitely.
He came about. Do you know anything about Miles Morales, sir?
I know he's a different person, but I don't understand the controversy behind him.
So in Ultimate Spider-Man, so Ultimate Spider-Man is a different version of Spider-Man.
Okay.
So it's a different universe.
Right.
In Ultimate Spider-Man, Peter Parker actually dies.
Right.
He dies at the hands of Green Goblin, which is unfortunate. So then another radioactive spider, because you can't keep those radioactive spiders down, bites a small boy who finds out that he has powers. And he's this black kid living in Harlem, and he finds out that he has Spider-Man-like powers, and they're a little different. And he decides that he's going to, as a tribute to Spider-Man, he's going to be the next Spider-Man.
Okay.
And the Avengers in that world are so distraught over the loss of Peter Parker, they decide they're going to train him to be a great superhero. And then, of course, the Ultimate Universe dies. And I say, of course, but I might be the only person who read that storyline. And Miles Morales was one of the few characters who actually left that universe and came into the current Marvel universe. So he's this kind of character without a home situation, and he's another Spider-Man.
In this new universe that Miles Morales moved to, now there's 2 Spider-Men?
There's like 5 Spider-Men.
In this new So what's the controversy? I don't understand the
controversy. So the controversy all comes apart this. It's really strange. So, what's his name from Community?
Donald Glover.
So they were looking for the next Spider-Man to be in a movie. And Donald Glover tweeted something out like, hey, it would be really cool to get my chance at Spider-Man. He just kind of tweeted something out. And of course the media went, oh my God, that'd be amazing.
Right.
And everyone's like, no, Donald Glover, there were petitions to sign to get him cast as Spider-Man. And then are like, no. And then there were like all these stories going around that the next Spider-Man movie is not going to be a Spider-Man movie. It's going to be a Miles Morales movie because he's the Black Spider-Man. Yep. And it's going to feature Donald Glover. And of course, Donald Glover knew nothing of these things and found all this stuff out from, reading tweets and stuff. And it's controversial because there are people who are actually very angry that there is a Spider-Man character who is black.
That's crazy.
Right.
That's not a controversy.
No. But you know what's even better about this?
It's not controversy.
But what's great about this is if you like that concept that there's possible other Spider-Man and stuff, the main character to the Spider-Verse movie is Miles Morales. So there you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Number 9, Comedy Bound. So, John Mulaney of SNL fame is making his motion picture debut in this film as Spider-Ham.
The pig one.
The pig one.
I didn't know that he was going to be the voice of Spider-Ham. That's great.
That should be a good time, right?
It should be a good time. I'm a fan of John Mulaney.
I think I'd enjoy his stand-up more if it was Spider-Ham.
He did a whole set.
If he was like Peter
It
Parker.
was like an animated. It was just an animated.
Maybe that happens in the
stand-up.
movie. Yeah, it's just like he gets up, does stand up as.
Well, from the
Spider-Man.
trailer, one of the funniest jokes is the Spider-Ham is like, "Do animals in this universe talk? I don't want to scare her." Love that.
Right? That's pretty good. But it's crazy to think that this is John Mulaney's first like motion picture movie. Like he's been around for so long and done so much writing and so much comedy that you'd think he would have been cast in something
Yeah.
else before.
I have a hard time believing that.
Right?
I feel like he's so saturated in the Hollywood culture that
Sure.
he would have been in a movie by now.
Sure, you've got the writing on SNL. You've got Big Mouth, the animated
Yep.
show
He had his
on
own
Netflix.
He had his own short-lived sitcom that was very Seinfeld-like.
Oh, was
yeah.
it? I didn't.
Yeah.
What was it called? Was it just
I think Mulaney. Yeah, I think it was called. So I mean, like so much like Seinfeld that they even like take the whole format of. It was a show about nothing, and I remember watching it being like, this could be better. It didn't have a thing to it.
And then
so.
there's the Broadway show, Oh Hello.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
with Nick
hello!
Kroll. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Play the
it-
old
did
people.
you see it? Did you see it?
No.
It's on Netflix. It's
Oh, okay.
it's for theater geeks.
Okay.
It is definitely for theater geeks. So
Gotcha.
I appreciated the humor in there.
I saw because
Right.
they developed the
Great.
characters on the Kroll show, right? That's where they first came up with the.
You know, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
'Cause I know they were
That's a
on
good
that,
question.
and then they
Yep.
sort of
yeah,
went
Nick
off from
Kroll.
it, so.
The Nick Kroll show.
Yeah,
That's
the Nick
another
Kroll,
thing he
yeah,
was
yeah.
on.
I-
Yep.
I-
Yeah,
yeah.
did too,
Oh,
so.
what a great show! I like that show, but I
Yeah,
love
it was
Nick Kroll.
funny.
I think that he's my kind of humor.
He's great. From
Yeah.
the league and everything that he's
That was
done.
yeah.
It's
That
good,
was.
yeah.
I was like, hey, that's the guy from the league. Now
That's
it's just like it's Nick
It's
Kroll.
Nick Kroll.
He was-
Yeah.
For years, he was the guy from the league when it came to
Yeah.
like, every
At
time
his
I saw
anime,
him.
and in Sausage Party, he's the douche.
Oh yeah.
Which is funny because
Hilarious.
he plays a character called the douche on Parks and Rec.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So, yeah. But we're
awesome.
not talking about him today.
No. We're
We're talking
boy.
about Spider-Ham, the most
Spider-Ham.
important Peter Porker.
It's good.
Spider-Ham.
It's gonna be funny to see him as that character. All right, number 8. Spider-Gwen does whatever she wants.
Badass.
Whoa.
All right, so this movie marks the first time we'll see the character of Gwen Stacy become Spider-Gwen, her alter ego. Her character was featured in the live-action movies of Spider-Man 3 in 2007, The Amazing Spider-Man in 2012, and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 2014. But now we get to see Spider-Gwen do some sweet Spider-Gwen stuff.
So there's this cool thing if you are in tune with reading any of the comics, Gwen Stacy was a huge part of Marvel Comics. It was one of the first times that a major character died. Of course, there were several times afterwards. And then Gwen Stacy stayed dead for a very long time. In fact, the Gwen Stacy that died in that comic is still dead. But what happens is there's this thing that happened in the multiverse idea where all of the major superheroes could have been Gwen Stacy at one point. So not only is there Gwen Stacy, the Spider Woman or Spider Gwen, but there's also Gwenpool, which is a Deadpool version of and there are a couple other ones, which is just really cool because she was an iconic character that represented permadeath for a while, and then all of a sudden there's comics that feature hundreds of her in just different variations of
That's funny.
superhero. It's really pretty cool.
That's cool.
I wonder if they did that on purpose.
Well, I
Just
think
because there's that comment or nobody stays dead except Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Right, that's right. Well, and plus, Mary Jane was always a big character too, so they sort of had to like push. Gwen was like pushed out of the picture for a long time.
Well, so what happens is Spider-Man in the original storyline is Spider-Man gets, Peter Parker loses, Gwen Stacy dies, and they were high school sweethearts, and so he's graduating high school, moving on, and his aunt was constantly trying to set him up with her neighbor's daughter,
Right.
and there's that great moment where he was like. he opens up the door and she's standing there and she says, "Looks like you just hit the jackpot, Tiger." And that's Mary Jane. But Mary Jane was featured in all the movie adaptations.
Right.
So if you're not familiar with Spider-Man in the comic world, you're probably going to associate Spider-Man with Mary Jane.
Yeah.
But Gwen Stacy, that's where it's at.
So to go back to the Spider-Verse too, because Spider-Man's incarnated different dimensions, are other characters all like? Is there an Aunt May? Is there a Gwen Stacy?
Yeah.
Is there?
I mean,
all
there's
the other
different.
the
there are different
villains
ones.
too.
Yeah, there's different versions of them.
Okay.
There's a Spider-Man from the Spider-Verse that was actually Dr. Octopus.
Huh.
So instead
that's
of him
right.
becoming Dr. Octopus, he becomes
okay.
the Spider, and uses his arms, 8 arms,
I'm going to keep an eye out for any Rick and Morty references.
Oh.
That's all I can think of as we're talking about.
But you know
this.
what? For the Rick and Morty fans, Spider-Man kind of did it first,
Yeah.
a little bit with the whole
I mean,
multiple.
it sounds like what you're
thing.
describing. Yeah, I
So-
would agree with that, even though I don't really know the history. It's like, hey,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm pumped.
Yeah. All right. Number 7. A Change is Coming. Directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller of the Lego Movie and 21 Jump Street were originally attached to write and direct Spider-Man, but in late December 2017, that all changed. Sony bumped the duo from the project, and even though the two worked over 140 animators to create a unique look and feel in the house computer animation with traditional hand-drawn comic book techniques. One of Miles Morales' co-creator, Sarah Pichelli.
Yep.
Oh man, I'm so bad with names. Although Phil Lord still has a writing credit, we are told that the film is much different from when he was on the project and well over the 2-hour runtime, which was originally cut. Now, this is something that I'm conflicted in because
Yeah.
from the trailer, you can see that this story has so many elements to it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna spend a good amount of time going, okay, was this originally part of the film or was this an added
That's
feature?
true.
And
Yeah.
and I really do love the animation. I think
God.
It looks so cool.
It looks so different than anything we've ever seen.
do you remember the post-credit scene in Venom?
Venom. That's right.
That was
it's the post credits.
yeah, that was jaw-dropping. It was jaw-dropping. It was
Like he was being pulled all over the by the subway car and everything.
just to
It's
see
crazy.
the colors. I don't know what you call it, this CMYK or whatever.
Yeah.
When comics are printed and you've got those little dots that
Yeah.
make up.
It's so
the,
cool.
The color. It's in
the
the
news-
film. And
the
you're-
newsprint look.
Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
get some silly putty and slap it on there and peel it off.
Pull it all off.
But
Like a
even
copy.
but if it also looks a lot like comics because slightly every once in a while the color bleeds out from the lines that
Yeah.
draw the character
Yeah.
intentionally.
Yeah.
And that's it just puts that feeling. I want a game
really
with that kind of
Oh,
that
yeah.
would be
It kind
really
of
cool.
speaking of games, it was maybe a little like Borderlands. Did you play
Yeah,
Borderlands?
cell shaded.
Oh,
Something like
yeah.
that.
It's
that
they
style.
did use cell shading for this animation, but there's 3D and there's 2D flat. There's flat cell shading. They combine so much. It looks
Every piece of it.
amazing.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I'll be curious too, Nick. Like what the movie looked like when Chris and Phil were attached to it versus when the new directors came on and sort of took a different approach to it. And like I said, the movie's been a long time coming since the Sony hack happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. It looks badass.
And the thing about Sony though is they either hit and it's like, wow, great job, or it's like, oh, why did you do this?
They grasp at a lot of straws. That's for sure.
Oh gosh. I mean, I really liked the Spider-Man Homecoming.
Definitely.
That was
great.
That was very well done.
But it also had a lot of pieces from the Marvel universe that's been created so far by Disney.
Yeah, but so I watched it with that in mind.
Yeah.
Thinking like, okay, do I like this because it's a Marvel movie, or do I like because it's a Spider-Man movie? And I actually think Sony did a good job with it, even though it's almost like they just grabbed pieces and put them in their movie,
Yep.
like Robert Downey Jr., of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But how'd you feel about
Happy
like the
Hogan.
Amazing Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man 2? How'd you
So-
feel about those?
With Andrew Garfield.
see the thing about Andrew Garfield is I think I think he looks the most like Peter Parker did, the way I wanted him to.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they made him a high school student in the first movie. And I like the Spider-Man stories where he's an adult working for the Daily Bugle.
Yeah.
And because that's the interesting Spider-Man. I just think those movies were kind of poorly written. And the second movie is just so bizarre. It's edited so poorly. So like the pacing in the second movie is so strange. They made Electro look really cool. And I even thought they made Rhino look pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the rest of the
fun
movie
suit.
it didn't make any sense to me.
They were really trying to get that Sinister Six that they were like grasping for after the movie to happen, and because of the collection they tried to get, they're like, oh, we need to make all these bad guys come to life so we can make the movie. I think it really made the movie struggle.
But Spider-Man: Homecoming did a better job. They got a great representation of Shocker and Vulture, which I was blown away by that. So
But they also went back to high school with that one too.
they did, but he looks like a little kid. Andrew
Tom
Garfield
Holland is the
Andrew
little
Garfield didn't really, to me, look like, I mean, they dressed him up young and stuff, but he looks like he could have been the adult. I was really
Yeah.
excited when he got cast because I was like, oh, cool. They got an adult to play Spider-Man. This is awesome. Whereas like Tobey Maguire was also an adult at the time, and he let's not talk about those movies. Yeah, I didn't love him. I thought the first Amazing Spider-Man was pretty good. I thought it was all right. The second one was just bizarre, weird.
Dane DeHaan.
Do I own it? Yes. Have I watched it
course.
several times? Of course. But
Am I happy about myself? No.
no.
He loves it.
But I've also watched Spider-Man 3 a lot, so.
Number 6, Miles and Miles and Miles. So even though we will see Peter Parker in this film, we will finally get to see a big screen look at Miles Morales, who also dons a Spidey suit and has to juggle high school life with his superhero status. Having the audience look on Spider-Man through the eyes of Miles should put anyone on spider fatigue at ease.
So you talked a little bit about the post-credit scene, which is really great because he's visiting the grave of the previous Spider-Man.
Right.
That's right.
And a part of me that loves comic books just fell deeply in love with this film because they did that. They didn't try to, wash it over with this like, oh, he's just a black version of Spider-Man. No, he's a tragic outcome of the death of a former Spider-Man. I just think that that's really great.
Yeah.
I love that. I even love the comedy of Miles getting out of his dad's cop car and his dad making him say, I love you.
Back, Joe.
You know, like,
that was a great scene.
like,
part's
like,
pretty
oh,
great.
that's really cool.
That's pretty awesome. But yeah, I think it'll be cool, like, to see, again, all the different versions of Spider-Man, but specifically the Miles Morales, because it's been teased for so long of us having this character and watching what he does as Spider-Man as opposed to what Peter Parker would do.
And then they got tragic Spider-Man as his like teacher, where the slob Spider-Man who doesn't have a job and probably smells bad.
Yeah.
That just looks awesome.
He probably smells
I,
bad. Yeah.
I didn't know anything about the Spider-Verse and how that worked. But
I forgive you.
The what I didn't gather from watching that little post-credit scene was that the Peter Parker who had died as he was looking on the grave was a superhero.
Right.
I didn't gather that. So I'm like, what? So did he not have Spider-Man powers? Because as that scene progressed, where he's going through like the montage of learning his abilities, it was almost like he didn't realize what he could possibly do. So if he lived in a universe that had a Spider-Man already, who was Peter Parker, who passed away, maybe you'd have an inkling as to what you could do.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
I was like, so does Peter Parker in this film, the dead Peter Parker, was he a superhero?
He was Spider-Man. He was a little edgier Spider-Man, and died younger. He wasn't an adult when he died. He was still a teenager when he died.
Are they going to explain all this to us? Do you know?
I actually hope they don't.
No, they just
I mean, I'm sure
go
that
with it.
there'll be a little bit of expose on, why Miles is doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
But what's really cool about it is, they took that section of the film from Venom that they showed at Venom, And there's a lot that they didn't answer. They just threw you into it.
Oh, you definitely.
You know, and I appreciate that because I felt like I was in the know a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, I know
what's
I know that Spider-Man. That's the slob Spider-Man. That's great. Oh, this is awesome. So there is still a lot that could be explained in that universe because we don't know what's going on because that's not the Miles Morales from Ultimate Spider-Man necessarily, but it looks like it could be the Miles Morales from the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
it's a little different. His
the feel?
backstory's a little different.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Awesome. All right, let's go to number 5, The Baddies. So this film is said to have at least 3 Spider-Man villains that we are aware of, and that's Kingpin, who's voiced by none other than Liev Schreiber.
Yeah.
We'll have Green Goblin.
Sabretooth.
That's right, Ed Sabretooth. That's right. He's in a lot of comic stuff. He sinks his
There's a
teeth
lot of
in.
comic stuff.
It's
There's a lot.
but more importantly, that's Mr. Ray Donovan right there.
Yeah, okay.
I haven't
It's a good show. Yeah.
And we're also going to see Green Goblin in the movie, and we're going to see Prowler as well too.
Yeah.
No,
know,
has Prowler appeared on any of the previews? Because the green,
Yes.
I'm assuming that the Green
Prowler
Goblin
is
like
in-
this big mech suit looking thing.
Prowler is in the previews.
Is he?
He's the shadowy figure.
Oh, then that's who I thought was the Green Goblin.
Yeah,
All right, so that's the Prowler.
Yep, that's not. And depending on which version of the Prowler it is, it has a completely different story. So,
Oh, okay.
in Ultimate Spider-Man, the Prowler is actually Miles Morales' uncle.
Oh,
So
spoiler
there's
alert.
a
Uncle
little bit of
Ben?
Something. No, it's Miles. It's Miles
Ben.
Morales'
Uncle Ben Prowler.
thief of an uncle. So, which is that strange story because the uncle is a thief and his brother Miles' dad is a cop. So,
Oh,
there's
that's right.
that.
Isn't it his uncle in one of the stories responsible for taking the spider that bites
Stealing.
Miles?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's the origin.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
depending on what version of Miles Morales that you're okay with, and how many
You're
times.
okay. Are you okay with Miles? Are you
No,
okay with
well, the
this?
thing about Marvel Comics is when a origin story doesn't stick, they just go, "Oh yeah, that wasn't the real origin story. Here's another one."
Okay.
You
gotta
so,
love
they can
comics,
rewrite
man.
themselves.
You gotta love comics.
Change it up any way they want.
Yeah.
And get a new writer in there. That's cool. I hope with what you said, I hope that it's his uncle. That's Prowler. That'd be
yeah,
a cool
and
twist.
this version of Green Goblin is a mesh of from the trailer. Looks like way different than other versions of Green Goblin, which
Yeah.
is cool because I happen to love Green Goblin, so I think it's a great character.
He's great.
So
And Kingpin. I like Kingpin from the animated series, the '90s one. He was always awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he didn't.
Really?
watch that one.
I didn't watch.
Kingpin is very much a Daredevil bad guy.
Yeah, I know Kingpin from the Daredevil series on
From the
Netflix.
right.
Vincent
Vincent
D'Onofrio.
D'Onofrio.
Amazing.
And Kingpin was featured in Spider-Man comic books pretty regularly, but in the 90s animated show, they wanted a bad guy that was somewhat untouchable. So, how do you do that? You get a rich politician type person.
Yep.
So Kingpin, that worked. And he's a great character. So we'll see. I mean, if you guys get a chance to play the PS4 Spider-Man game?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
No.
It's amazing. No pun intended. But the first
Amazing.
the beginning of the game starts with you taking out the Kingpin, and it's so cool.
Take him out, Spidey.
Yeah, and Spider-Man's bad guys are badass. I just hope that they don't limit it to 3. I want to see a bunch of bad guys.
And
I wanna-
if they go through the universe, the dimensions and whatever, I'm sure we will hopefully see a bunch of different
right.
baddies.
Well, I mean,
Right?
If they
Yeah.
get 3, if they have 3 and they make it work, then I'll be happy. I
Don't overload them with things that don't
exactly,
work.
because I mean, there's been films in the past where you're like, there's too many bad guys.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
been films where there's not enough bad guys.
That's
Listen,
true.
How about just whatever you decide to go forward with, if it's 3 or 1 or 50, just make it good.
I mean, I wouldn't
I agree with that.
mind if it was like 2 main bad guys, but they just featured little Easter eggs
Right.
of bad guys.
Kind of like how
You
they
know
did
what I mean?
Homecoming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. You
Homecoming
still
was
gotta feel.
the right balance of a lot of bad guys,
Yeah.
but they all don't have to take center stage. Like
Or like
Another movie that we'll talk about.
in the animated versions of Spider-Man, and also in the movies, they've had Dr. Connors, and Dr. Connors is the Lizard, which is one of Spider-Man's most lethal foes, and actually has the most disturbing Spider-Man storyline with it. So,
Definitely.
and I'm just gonna go with it. I'm just gonna let you know, the Lizard eats his children, his human children.
Gross.
Like, and you read a 2 to 3 comic book arc about his son just trying to escape from his father eating him, and then he eats him. Like, this is not the most disturbing that Spider-Man has ever gotten, but the fact that they always pepper in this idea like, oh, there's this one-armed science guy and his name is Doc Connors. That's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad they don't
I
do
know
the
how the
Lizard.
story ends.
It's not good. Right?
No good.
All right, number 4, animation on the rise. From the trailer, we can see this movie will be very unique. The animation style honors 70-year-old techniques designed for comic book artwork and reveals the film's visual language. It took the production team about 1 year to create 10 seconds of footage that they liked. The visual styles of the animation will be discerned when we see each dimension, which is really cool.
That's crazy. Like, again, we already know that the animation looks so different from anything that we've seen, but then to have it look different when they show us different dimensions, that's a cool technique. I like that idea.
And I like the idea that it took that long, because
A year? A year for 10 seconds to like, hey, this is what we want it to look like.
this is the best 10 seconds,
I hope that 10 seconds is in the movie.
It's amazing.
And I like the idea that a different dimension is going to have a different animation style. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's very unique.
So,
I think there's going to be like fourth wall breaking.
Like
in
Deadpool
other-
style?
Yeah. In different dimensions.
I-
Is there a fourth wall breaking Spider-Man?
yeah, Peter Parker Spider-Ham is very much aware that he's a comic book character. I'm trying to think if there are other Spider-Men that are that meta. There is a Deadpool version of Spider-Man, and he does know that. So, but no, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. So,
Who knows?
They'll all become self-aware.
well, when you could you just take a second to imagine that? Like, imagine if you were privy to this existence that there are multiple dimensions with different Neils in them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no.
That blows my mind.
I don't want to live in that world. Nobody wants to live in that world.
and there's
The
one.
Citadel of Neils.
There's one dimension where there's a
You'd have to
Neil.
go and take a
Neil has
shower every time you
instead
go
of
visit.
he just has just the soul patch and a British accent. He's the evil Neil.
The evil one.
Is everybody with a British accent evil with you?
I'm sorry. Have you ever seen a movie or a television show? British people are evil people are British. Not British people are evil.
Correct, because a lot of British people play American characters and lose their accents.
That's right, and they're not evil.
That's right.
They're only evil if they keep the British accent.
And they're evil.
Number 3. 3 dimensions, a necessity.
Woo.
So the film directors all felt that the project should be presented in an anamorphic format or widescreen. They all agreed that this will be one of a few films audiences need to watch in 3D due to the immersive nature of the animated world created. Persichetti, the director, described this experience as a combination of the effects of an old-fashioned 2D multiplane camera and a modern reality environment.
You see that in the trailer.
Totally.
Where scenes often they start close and they go wide, but when they go wide, if the scenery fills in.
That's right.
And that's a Hitchcock effect. There's a lot of effects that do that are just amazing. So it's interesting to see it when they do it in animation. So
it's going to be, I mean, like I said, I know not everyone agrees with 3D and people have their own feelings and wants and needs for 3D and what they were looking for in a 3D movie. But something like this that has a unique style of animation, I'd be curious to watch, to see that in 3D and to see what type of effects they're gonna play with your eyes and stuff like that,
Sure.
and give you a more immersive experience.
Yeah, I'm definitely from the camp of 2D movies only. Unless it's like Star Wars or a space movie, there's a lot of flying involved. This movie I'm gonna see in 3D.
We'll check out the 3D version.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
down?
yeah. I mean, normally I would say no, but I want to experience this movie as much as possible.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I will be wearing full Spider-Man Galia.
You're gonna have the suit on.
I don't have a Spider-Man suit, but I feel
Oh, you should have like a Spider-Man snuggie.
But you
like
have
a-
PJs, you have Spider-Man PJs.
it's not because
Spider-Man
it's not because I
underoos?
haven't tried. It's just because I've fluctuated in size several times. So
It's
like
spandex. What
if
the-
if I'm gonna buy a Spider-Man outfit, it better be the Spider-Man outfit that I own.
Oh.
I say we team up, Neil, and this holiday season we get Nick a full Spider-Man outfit.
Just to let you know.
Yep. You gained some weight during the holidays. That was going on. Is that
No.
You
I
want
mean,
extra large in the
spend-
junk area.
No, it's gonna be spandex.
spandex is fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's great, but just know that I want the hood that is full in the front and zips in the back. So
Oh,
just so
okay,
that I can
okay.
wear them, basically just wear the mask all
okay.
the time. Or
Okay.
or reenact the scenes where I'm upside down and I'm kissing random people.
just
So,
random people.
It doesn't matter. I don't really care who it is. I just want to. That's the only part of the first Spider-Man movie with
hang you upside
Tobey
down.
Maguire that was any good.
You
So,
like the upside down kissing scene?
Yep.
Yep.
We're gonna set up a kissing booth, set them up like a pinata upside down.
we, like
we did that at
All
my-
that rain. I always think when I see that scene, and I've seen it several times. I always think like, oh man, he's gonna drown. Like there's water going up his nose.
going on there. We recreated that at my cousin's wedding. Actually, he got us all superhero shirts to wear underneath our suits. So at one point we all opened them up, and like I was Wolverine and Green Lantern.
Oh, I think I've seen that
Batman,
picture. Yeah.
And so at his wedding there was a stage, and he was Spider-Man because that's his favorite character. And he actually just had a daughter named her Mary Jane. So he's
Wow,
he's very
that's
much into
sold.
it.
Yeah.
And he has a son named Logan as well too. So he's
Very cool.
big. in the
Wow,
comics.
he is all in.
But we recreated with his wife. We held him upside down on stage, and they did a kiss with him upside down wearing his Spider-Man mask. And it was pretty precious.
You gotta show me that.
So
picture.
Spider-Man
all
does
right,
have a daughter,
It's adorable.
And
her name is May. Yeah, he named her after her aunt.
okay,
Yeah.
that's-
Yep.
Wi-
And she's the spider. She's Spider Girl of the future.
Oh my gosh, is there a universe where Aunt May is a Spider-Man?
So wait, you guys. No, I want to tell you. So there, it is canon, and this is real in Spider-Man's like connected universe. There was a small amount of time. Does everyone know who Galactus is? He's the he's the
Galactus,
world
yeah.
eater,
Yes.
and he has a herald that serves him called the Silver Surfer.
right.
There was a brief amount of time where Aunt May was the herald of Galactus.
Wow.
And she wielded the power cosmic.
no way.
That's a real thing. Small
Wow.
thing.
Fantastic.
Yep. And it actually in the comic right now, most recently, Aunt May also has this really great thing where Spider-Man. So Spider-Man's biggest foe is Peter Parker's biggest foe is who?
Puberty.
It's
Flash.
it's J. Jonah Jameson from the Daily Bugle,
Oh,
who is
okay.
his boss on one end,
right.
but also his nemesis, always trying to get Spider-Man in trouble or kill Spider-Man or something.
right.
So, in the current Marvel universe, Aunt May is actually married to J. Jonah Jameson's father.
Oh no.
Oh.
So that
like
makes
she let Uncle Ben went, and she was like, "Hey,
no. So Uncle Ben died long time ago,
Right.
And she started seeing this
shacked up.
man with, and it's J. Jonah Jameson's father.
what's his name?
Oh, I think John.
John.
Yeah.
John.
Yeah.
John
So
J.
because J.
Jameson.
Jonah Jameson is the second, and his son's
Oh,
the
okay.
third. So.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really kind of funny. So.
That's weird.
But in Spider-Man comics, I just want to let you know on Spider-Man comics currently right now, which are so good, J. Jonah Jameson is Spider-Man's best ally. It's basically his sidekick.
Wow.
Because they had a great bro moment, and it's pretty awesome. So I I'm working really hard not to just geek out constantly during this episode, and I'm sorry that all eked out, but
No, it's good.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
right.
Is Peter Parker and J. Jameson get along in
yeah.
the
So
new current
not
comic?
to talk too much about it, but so J. Jonah Jameson basically spent his whole career trying to stop Spider-Man.
Right.
And he was the head of a newspaper. And when newspapers started to fail, he decided he wanted to be a politician. He became the mayor of New York for a little while. And then scandal hit, and he wasn't able to be mayor of New York. So then his paper wouldn't hire him back. So he started to write a anti-Spider-Man blog, which was failing, and he just became this really sad character. And then finally, Spider-Man showed up at his apartment and said, hey, we're gonna talk this out. And they talked out, and then he revealed to him that he is Peter Parker, and it destroyed J. Jonah Jameson totally, but they were able to connect that, hey, we want good things for the people in our lives. And so for a while, for a couple comics after that, there were moments where like J. Jonah Jameson was like the getaway car driver and in Spider-Man. I mean, it was really good.
Huh.
It's pretty awesome, by the way.
great.
So
Interesting.
yeah, sorry. Had to geek out a
It's
second.
fine. It's
No,
fine.
not at all.
All right, let's get back to the list. We're at number 2, guys. Number 2. Remember number 2.
Number
2. Miles' story intact. So comic fans will be delighted that Miles' origin story is almost entirely intact in this movie. So we're going to
cool.
see it the way it's supposed to be. So Miles lives in a world where Peter Parker has died, and his uncle, I guess, is responsible for stealing a spider from the same group that gave Peter Parker his powers. And now that Nick has revealed too that his uncle is not a good guy.
Well, the thing is, we don't know this though. We don't know that he's necessarily the Prowler. So
right. But you
could-
said he's a thief. He's a professional thief, right? And his
in
dad
the
is-
original Miles Morales storyline.
That's what they're telling us.
So
this is origin.
again, though, this information comes from Sony, so I don't necessarily trust them.
I guess that's true.
But it's great to say that it's great to see that there's an origin story for Spider-Man that's not Peter Parker. It's gonna it's a little different.
different.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, like if you lived in a world where there were superheroes and iconic superhero died and you have powers, there's going to be a lot of people who have, do tribute to that guy by going out there trying to do what he did. So I just think that it's a neat story device. So
That's awesome. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool to see. I'm excited.
all right, so
Neil, you
excited.
excited?
I am very excited.
this has been an emotional ride. This episode is probably one of my favorite that we've done because I love Spider-Man. But are we ready for number 1?
I don't know. I don't know what's
Hang
going
on.
on.
Are you ready, Neil?
Ready.
All right. Number 1. It's not Spider-Man 3. So, this film will be a newer take on the Spider-Man franchise, unlike anything we've seen in movies before. Regardless of your feelings on any of the numerous Spider-Man franchises, this will be a fresh story to dive into. This movie will have almost no connection to any previous film and offer the audience something completely different. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, Spider-Man 3, what a terrible movie. But
It was really bad.
But I also can't really say that anything that they've done, aside from Homecoming, that was pretty good. After Spider-Man 3 was like any good. Like also, but just any of the Sony superhero movies, they've all had moments that are somewhat disappointing. I even think the Andrew Garfield first movie, even though it's watchable, it's boring to me. I don't want to see another origin story. I
felt like I liked that one. I guess I was excited for, just like you, to have Andrew Garfield play the role. So it was cool, and like the bad guys were cool. Like they didn't get too like campy with stuff. I don't know. I thought it was a cool story.
I agree with you that it was better than the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, but it wasn't. I don't really think it was very good. I mean, but also there were better superhero movies that were coming out.
Well,
at that
yeah,
time.
yeah,
and
agreed.
and like Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie is great. It's really great. I mean, I happen to love Iron Man 3, but I think we disagree on that, right?
We're not gonna talk about that,
Right?
Nick. We're not gonna go there.
But there were a lot of movies, and why I get so upset is because I try not to geek out too much. When a favorite comic book franchise is made into a movie, I usually go, okay, cool, let's see how this works out. Like, I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. I have every Guardians of the Galaxy comic book. I loved it, loved it, loved it. When they announced they were going to make the movie, I was like, well, that'll be good. Okay, cool. Let's see how it happened. And I loved the first movie. The second movie was a good sequel, I thought.
Okay.
The third movie, we'll never know. But like these Spider-Man movies, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies were like, hey, there are a couple cool things in this movie, but the rest of the movie is garbage, and we accept that. And the Andrew Garfield ones were like, it's the same story recycled over again, and they could have done something different, and I was just super disappointed. The Homecoming, though, they turned everything kind of on the end because Spider-Man's origin was actually featured in the Captain America movie.
That's right.
So they didn't have to do that anymore, and I don't know. I liked Homecoming. I hope that he does more. They do more movies like that, but Tom Holland needs to grow up a little bit so we can see adult Spider-Man.
Well,
He thinks he's so immature. He doesn't
No, I don't-
like what's
Well, actually,
Well,
I don't think he's immature.
He prefers the older
Yeah, he likes the
Spider-Man.
older,
He
yeah.
has the more
Yeah, I
mature
agree.
story.
That's why
and
the-
you know what? That's probably why they started with him, so that he could grow up a little bit, and you can just become a
Sure, and that would be awesome.
Right.
But like the Spider-Man video game is awesome because he's been Spider-Man for years at that time.
Oh, okay.
Which is really, really good. And that would make a great movie. But, hey, Sony, if you hear my pitch, make a movie out of that.
Nick's got a movie for you.
I'll only take 10%.
But we get to see a young Miles Morales in this,
Which is cool
yeah.
because he is not Peter Parker.
Right.
And it's a story that is a little different and
Now, has Miles Morales grown up at all? In
No,
these
he's still a
in these
kid.
comics?
He's still a kid, which is really funny because he's on an alternate Avengers team, which he is the Spider-Man for that Avengers team, and he's still awkward where he doesn't necessarily understand his powers, and sometimes people will see him in the black suit and they're just like, wait, you're really short. I thought you were taller. Like there's fun play with the whole thing. So we'll see.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, I don't want this episode to end, but that was our list. We definitely want to go see that movie, correct? We're
Yep.
gonna
Yeah.
so
In 3D.
Yeah.
in 3D.
Three
so,
dimensions.
So, Craig, could you tell me when we can go see that movie?
Yeah. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse will open at Cumberland 12 Cinemas on Thursday, December 13th. Tickets on sale soon. And be playing throughout the whole holiday season.
Which would be awesome. A great holiday movie to take your kids to if you're not going to go see the PG-13 version of Deadpool. So.
That's right. That we will also
I'm
have
not
to.
going to see it. I love Deadpool.
I might go see it just for the Fred Savage moments, just to see how they do that.
Right now, they said it's limited, not to get into Deadpool too much, but it's going to be like a few days out there, and then if it does real well, they'll probably do it a little longer.
Oh,
But
okay.
it'll be
Well,
like a week
but at the
long.
very least, we're getting Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse for the whole
holiday
season.
season. Check out the
Oh,
whole thing.
perfect.
Yep.
All right. So thank you to North Volume Media for hosting this podcast, and
Check out our Facebook.
Yeah.
Check out our Facebook.
We
page.
got a little poll running right now, I think, right, to see which character you like better.
yeah,
What's the poll?
John C. Reilly, right?
Yeah, favorite John C.
Yeah, yeah.
John C. Reilly film. That's what it was.
yeah. Let us know how you feel about our polls, because if you want us to change them up, we can. But Neil, you should totally weigh in on that poll.
I
we can
Yeah,
talk
you
should.
about
done
it.
that,
I will.
Because
Yeah.
one of them is superior to the other.
Wow.
Oh God. I
Superior.
just saw the text.
I have a hard time believing we're gonna agree on this.
Superior.
So
Superior.
All right, I'm gonna check it out. Don't
So-
tell me. Don't spoil it. I'm gonna check out the Facebook
So
page. I
please
haven't-
check out our Facebook page. There's polls all the time.
Right.
Also, let us know how you feel about the show.
Yeah.
And
Let us know what movies that you want us to talk
Yeah.
about. Upcoming films coming up. We're going rolling into Christmas and then January and February and March. Let us know what movies you guys are excited about.
Yep.
Mary
Yep,
Poppins
We have.
for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to see that. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So I'm Nick,
I'm Craig.
And I'm Neil.
and we'll see you at the movies.
Bye.